Yeah, so in our Physical Balance Center local sports news, I'm going to keep talking about some Arizona playoff basketball. And there was an interesting story that's been going around with the playoffs in the 3A division. So Coolidge High School, their boys basketball team entered the tournament as a number 3 seed. Right, so they win their first round game, and in the quarterfinal round, they play against Chinley High School, and they win that game 64-53. They won by 11, but apparently it was a really tight game. I'm hearing both teams played well. It was highly competitive, a lot of energy in the crowd, maybe too much. So following that Chinley game, allegations of racist behavior by Coolidge fans led to the AIA placing the school's entire athletic program on probation for 365 days. So that's 1 full year. That's the entire athletic program. What that mean was not only the basketball team, but any other athletic sport at Coolidge High School would be banned from postseason play until the 2027 season. So kind of a big deal, especially for this basketball team that's getting ready to go into the Final Four game, the semifinal championship game. So on the 27th, which is roughly a week later, a Pinal County judge granted a temporary restraining order reinstating the team. So they gave them a temporary restraining order, holding that probation kind of in limbo, allowing the Coolidge basketball team to play in that semifinal championship game, in which they won and move on to the state championship game this coming up week against Palo Verde. So Coolidge High School, their head coach, Dave Glasgow, wants the Buena High School basketball coach and the head coach that I worked under for several years, I'm sure has had a very stressful week of roller coaster going up and down. It's important to note that the behavior, all the extracurricular was done by fans or parents of players, maybe fans, students in the student section. None of the players of the team or coaches were involved in anything inappropriate at all. So it's important to note that a lot of people feel like the AIA was kind of hastening their decision and punishing all of the sports when the athletes weren't the ones, causing the trouble.
They didn't participate.
But the AIA is coming down on athletic departments and athletic directors for their liability in keeping all of the players, fans, and everything safe and making it a safe environment. So I think you said it before off the air that that injunction is temporary. So if that appeal is declined or denied, Coolidge, even if they win the state championship, could have that state championship vacated, pending on the ruling of the AIA.
And another thing to note with this decision, so it's a temporary restraining order that allows the Coolidge basketball team to continue playing until this is worked out in court. But the suspension still stands for every other team at Coolidge High School.
Wow.
So their track team, their men's volleyball team, baseball, softball,
football, even, because
that's right, well, because it's 365 days, so it goes into next school year. So basically, no Coolidge team can compete in postseason play until next February.
A 1-year death penalty. You remember when that happened to SMU? You remember they didn't come back from that. They had a much longer. They had a 4-year or possibly longer. But to shut down a department,
I understand you want to try to send some kind of a message.
All-time
but it's
message.
difficult to. How do you respond to these allegations?
Do you punish the
without
girls?
punishing the players that the players weren't involved with it?
Right.
And if I'm a softball player, why can't I play in the postseason? I wasn't even at that game. So it's
those girls that want to get recruited. That's the thing that I'm thinking is like, what about the kids that want to move on to the next level that aren't going to get a chance to even participate?
For every sport.
Right.
I mean, track and field, softball, baseball, volley. It's a lot of other people that could be affected by this decision. So it's going to be a doozy for them to work out in court.
I believe the AIA is trying to set a precedent or a standard. There was also an issue in these same playoffs in the open division where there was racial behavior or racial accusations being thrown out involving Central High School, who's a team still playing in the 5A semifinal this week. So, and that went under AIA investigation. I believe the AIA is trying to, set a standard saying, hey, we're going to set an example where athletic directors and athletic departments know what could happen.
Right.
This quote unquote death penalty could happen to you. So tighten up and whatever you gotta do to make these things, not happen.
It's interesting because when the news of this story first broke, it was just that the suspension had been given on all postseason play.
That's all we heard.
And my first thought was, okay, are we talking about ineligible players? Are we talking about some type of improper benefits situation? So to hear what it was, that it wasn't something involving a actively participating student athlete, that just was it was a head scratch.
Yeah. And when I first heard it, I heard about the incident and I heard that the AIA was investigating it. Because as a coach in the AI and, in the league, they send a message out anytime there is an investigation.
Right.
But I never thought in a million years they would decide to make the decision that they did to ban them and put that probation. And then once they did make that decision, I knew an appeal was going to happen.
Right,
an appeal was going to happen, and it did. But I don't know if many people don't know this. They denied the appeal.
That's right.
Whoa.
The AIA heard the appeal about, hey, it wasn't the players, don't punish the players, and they said, no, we're still doing it, and it had to be from the Coolidge representatives taking it to a court judge to, give that temporary injunction, because what was going to happen was Snowflake, the team that they played in that semifinal game, was going to get an automatic bid to the championship game.
Right.
And that was just going to be a forfeited game by Coolidge.
They weren't even. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, at least it gets played. Even if it gets forfeited, it'll get
For
played.
the
Even
sake
if it
of
doesn't
competition, I'm really hoping that the games are played and whatever the results of the on-court play can stand.
matter. Right. I totally agree.
Now, is there any injunction against the fans at this point? Are they not allowed to be there from Coolidge? Is there any kind of stay for them?
See, when I first heard the news, I thought that's what the punishment would be. I thought they were going to say, hey, for a full year, you can't have fans at your games or something, drastic like that. But I didn't know it was going to punish all athletics at Coolidge High School. And like you said, that is still pending and staying.
Yes.
So, and with the appeal being denied, it's hard to see a way out of that for Coolidge.
And there could be more information, more things that happen that we don't know about. For me, I'm spitballing here. If there was multiple complaints made during the game to members of the administration that went unanswered or ignored, maybe that's the justification for this.
There's the proof of neglect.
Yes, look, we told you and you guys didn't respond.
Yeah.
But even then, it's still a lie. It's not the players. I mean, is there some type of fine or maybe you remove the person who didn't respond properly, or just, hey, you guys playing empty gyms for all next season?
Yeah.
It could be a lot of stuff. That would be crazy. But to punish those players who trained and worked all hard and really gave so much sweat equity to get their team to a Final Four, that's just
and
tough.
To be held liable for what other silly immature kids.
I was
do
on the
in
court
stands.
playing and abiding by the rules of the sport. And now I potentially can't play in a championship game.
And there's kids that you can't. What's also dangerous about setting that precedent is you have plants, the idea of people planting. So if you're I could go to my rival school, do something really egregious, and know that I'm going to get my rival school in trouble or something like that. So you have to be careful. Setting a precedent where you're going to punish players for the actions of fans.
Yeah, because you have to hold that standard afterward.
Well, the athletic departments have to be ultimately holding their own. They've got to. The ADs have to step up. Even
100%.
They have to be traveling
Shouldn't have happened
for these playoff games. They should be there.
They didn't have
present.
security.
And,
if you think if your fans are that way, you should know that.
So here's a question, because this is something I've noticed during the basketball season since we traveled and covered a couple games in different locations. What I've noticed is, and I don't know if this is statewide, but I can say in Cochise and in Pima County, most of the times the gyms are cut in half.
Yeah.
That only one side of bleachers is being used, and they have both teams occupy one side. Would this be a great case to use the other side of the gym and to keep the fans separate so we can determine exactly who it was?
I think that's absolutely a good point, and that is one of the reasons why maybe the athletic department is being held responsible.
Right.
If you didn't have enough things set up in place to prevent this from happening, somebody is responsible and needs to be held accountable for that.
Yeah.
Now, and I agree all with that. What we disagree on is who's going to be held accountable for these things. Because if that's the fault of an athletic director gets to keep his job and he has no penalty really, or she, they have no penalty. It's the players that aren't getting to play. It's the players that aren't getting to participate in postseason play. And think about what that would do for all of the athletes that you mentioned it before that maybe want to make it to the next level or they need that season to establish them. They're going to leave and go to other schools.
Yep.
Because no one's going to want to be a part of. You talked about SMU and the equivalence to a college team and how that's a death penalty. Because if you can't get athletes to want to come to your school, then even when you're off that probation, it's a long road back to being successful. And I just don't know. That's to me, this is my opinion. It just feels like an overreaction to something because I've heard the Native community, specifically the Navajo tribe organization, they got involved and put a lot of pressure and heat on the AIA. They're well represented in this county judge apparently. So, you know, sometimes pressure makes pipes burst and pressure can cause an overreach or exaggeration. So I'm hoping that this was that is and cooler heads prevail. They look at the situation and say, hey, well, you know, find some median, reasonable discipline.
You brought up a great point, though. Players being allowed to transfer. So would this be a situation where if players transfer, should they be able to transfer with no restrictions, no penalty? Because I can't compete in postseason play, you got to let me go to another school and don't make me sit out half a season.
I believe it will because there's an appeal process. If you're trying to transfer and you want to not be penalized for that half a season or whatever, you submit the paperwork showing why. And this is kind of in that gray area where
it'd be crazy if they were punishing kids.
It's the AIA that makes the decision. So that you can easily approach the AIA like, well, you're the one that put these sanctions down. I'm trying to, you know, not be affected by that because I had nothing to do with it. And then that's just more paperwork on their desk. So
devastating blow for Coolidge High School.
For sure. Especially for having such a successful season.
Right.
They're in the state championship game. Mind you, playing a Palo Verde team that they're familiar with, they've played already. They're right on the cusp of winning a state championship and have to deal with all of this distraction and hoopla. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to continue to follow and see if we can do a follow-up on this next week and find out if there's any more developments on that. So thanks for the panel discussion. Good job, guys. That was
on the
fun.
news.
And local sports news. And now we're going to be saying that the local sports news is brought to you by Physical Balance Center. Physical Balance Center is much more than your typical physical therapy clinic. At Physical Therapy and Balance Centers, they focus on improving your quality of life by using a holistic, whole-body approach to connect your diagnosis with a customized plan of care. Opened by Dr. Tapp at Tap Into Wellness. Love your life with Dr. Tapp at Physical Balance Center in Sierra Vista.